You're tuned in to Big Mama C's Midnight Hour, where the night is deep, the stories are smooth, and dreams come easy. The Jazzman's Lullaby. The city never truly slept. It just hummed like a saxophone holding a low, sweet note in the back of the night. Streetlights buzzed, cars whispered along slick pavement, and somewhere a distant siren wept before fading into the dark. But there was one sound that didn't get lost in the city's symphony. One melody that floated above it all, rich and warm as a late-night embrace. It came from the corner of 7th and Vine, where an old man named Charlie set up his saxophone every evening just as the sky turned velvet. Charlie had been playing there for years, long enough that folks had stopped wondering where he came from or where he went when the sun came up. He was just there, as much a part of the city as the street lamp that flickered beside him, or the faded red bricks beneath his feet. And every night, when the neon signs blinked awake and the world slowed just a little, Charlie lifted his sax to his lips and played. A song for the city. Charlie didn't play for money. Not really. Sure, there was an old, scuffed-up saxophone case open at his feet, and sometimes people tossed in crumpled bills or loose change. But that wasn't why he played. He played for the city, for the lovers walking arm in arm, speaking in whispers only they could hear, for the taxi drivers waiting at red lights, tapping their fingers on the wheel, for the insomniacs staring out of apartment windows, lost in thoughts they'd never say out loud, and for the lonely ones, the ones who wandered the streets, hands deep in their pockets, looking for something they couldn't quite name. Charlie's saxophone sang for them all, slow, like honey dripping from a spoon, deep, like laughter at the back of a smoky bar, soft, like a hand brushing against yours in the dark. people would pause just for a moment, letting his music settle into their bones, warm and familiar. Then they'd move on, carrying his melody with them like a secret. The night wind's secret. One night, as Charlie played, a strong wind swept through the streets, curling between buildings and slipping through alleyways like a restless spirit. Charlie's notes lifted into the air, carried high above the rooftops, swirling between the stars. And that night, something strange happened. Far beyond the city, past rivers and rolling hills, past sleepy little towns and quiet farms, people began to hear his music. A young woman sitting on her porch in Mississippi, rocking gently in the moonlight, swore she heard a saxophone drifting through the warm night air. A man standing on his balcony in Chicago, looking out over the skyline, felt a slow, aching melody wrap around him like an old memory. A child curled up in the bed in a house by the sea, just about to drift off, heard the faintest whisper of jazz, like a lullaby meant just for them. They didn't know where it was coming from, but for some reason, as they listened, their hearts felt a little fuller, their minds a little quieter, and their dreams a little sweeter. The man who listened. Now, there was one man who had heard Charlie's music more times than he could count. His name was Eddie. Eddie ran the little diner across the street, Rosie's, where the neon sign flickered half of the time, but the coffee was always hot. Every night, as he wiped down the counters and locked up, he heard Charlie playing. And every night, he felt like that saxophone was telling him a story. Not with words, but with something deeper, something that curled around his heart, filling the spaces where old regrets lived. Eddie had never told Charlie that. He'd never even spoken to him. Not really. Just nodded when he passed. Maybe slid a cup of coffee across the counter if Charlie ever wandered in before sunrise. But one night, as the music played, Eddie did something different. He walked outside across the quiet street and stood next to Charlie. Didn't say a word, just stood there, letting the music wrap around him like a well-worn coat. And Charlie, without stopping, gave the smallest smile, like he knew, like he understood. The song slowed, softer now, drifting through the empty streets like mist over water. And when it ended, the whole city sighed. A lullaby for the world. As the days passed, stories began to spread. People in far-off towns, places Charlie had never even been, spoke of hearing jazz in the wind, just as they were falling asleep. A sailor on a midnight watch out at sea had sworn he heard a saxophone's sigh floating across the waves. A woman sitting alone in a train station, waiting for a ticket home, felt a slow melody wrap around her, comforting as an old sweater. No one knew where it was coming from, but it didn't matter, because every night, somewhere in the world, Charlie's music played on. Not through radios or records, not from a stage or a jukebox, but in the quiet spaces, the in-between the hushed seconds before sleep took hold. Charlie played a lullaby for the world, a song for the ones who needed it most. And if you ever find yourself walking alone at night, feeling the wind curl around you just right, listen closely. You might just hear it. A saxophone, low and slow, playing a tune just for you.